Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Frita, and I'm giving you another round of celebrity health news and some of the top hot health headlines. Today, we're talking about Deion Sanders primetime. He has been sharing that he had a diagnosis of bladder cancer. He has now had a surgery to remove his entire bladder and have a new bladder placed in its stead. So we'll talk about bladder cancer, the risk factors, the symptoms, and I'll describe this new surgery he had, this new bladder, and what that means for him. And then we'll talk about germs. Oh my goodness. There is a video that has gone viral of a woman who was found touching herself on the subway and then touching the subway rail. And so you know what we do. We take the headlines, we take it and bring health to you. I'll talk about germs, some of the places that have the most germs, what to do to prevent them, and how long certain germs last on surfaces, okay? Ugh. Then we'll talk about Mama June. You know Mama June, Honey Boo Boo's mama. Well, she had an interesting experience. She was seeing a psychic who predicted that she would have something going on with her health, some stress issues, and just hours later, she had to seek medical attention for an ovarian cyst. And so we'll talk about ovarian cysts. We'll talk about the signs, the symptoms, how common they are, and what to do if you have symptoms of an ovarian cyst. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, and hit the notification bell as you come on in here. That way you'll be among the first to know when I pop on and give you videos with evidence-based information like this. Now, let's talk about Deion Sanders. Prime time. You know, he stays in the headlines. He's had a son to go to the NFL. He's a coach with personality plus. He's had some medical issues he shared, right? When he had blood clots, he's even shared that he only has 8 toes, all kinds of things. He seems just about like he's an open book. Well, we know now that he has been living with bladder cancer. And some people were making note that he had had some weight loss and they were making comments. Now he shares that he lost something like 25 pounds while going through this health journey. And he actually had a surgery to remove his bladder, which had the cancer, to get a new bladder replaced in its stead. And that was in May of 2025. So now he's back. He's positive. He said he will be coaching. He said he's better than ever.
You're ready to have a surgery.
The Colorado football coach revealing he underwent surgery in May after he was diagnosed with bladder cancer.
If it wasn't for me getting tested for something else, they wouldn't have stumbled up on this. It's been tough. I think I dropped 25 pounds. I'm still dealing with going to the bathroom. Like, it's a whole life change.
The Hall of Famer, at times emotional.
You have no idea how good God has been.
But still showing off that famous personality.
I depend on depend, you know, if you know what I mean. I cannot control my bladder. So I get up and go to the bathroom already 4 or 5 times a night.
Sitting next to his doctor, the 57-year-old says he'll be back coaching the Buffaloes this upcoming season, as after the surgery, there have been no traces of cancer.
All right, so bladder cancer. What is bladder cancer? Bladder cancer occurs when you have an abnormal growth of cells in the bladder. It's usually what we used to call transitional cell carcinoma or urothelial cell cancer. And so instead of the cells just kind of having a certain life cycle, stopping, passing away, apoptosis, instead of going through the normal cell life cycle, with bladder cancer, these cells are abnormal and they grow and grow and grow until they invade tissues. And so in his case, he was just at the doctor to have his regular checkup, because he gets regular checkups to make sure he doesn't have any more blood clots in his body, okay, to check his vasculature. But what they found was that he had the bladder cancer. Ultimately, he made the decision because his cancer was a pretty aggressive cancer. Fortunately, it had not spread or metastasized to the rest of his body. So what they chose to do was to remove the cancer and the entire bladder. And according to his urologist, his bladder surgeon, he's cured and he's cancer free. And so for bladder cancer, it is the 4th most common cancer among men, and about 85,000 people get diagnosed with bladder cancer each year. There are some definite risk factors. Being a smoker of cigarettes, of cigars, is the #1 risk factor. And I will say that Deion Sanders has never been a smoker, okay? He's a non-smoker. Nevertheless, being a smoker is one of the big risk factors. Also, being a man, okay? Men are more likely to get breast cancer than women, and being older than the age of 55 will put you at an increased risk. And back to the smoking, people who are smokers are 3 times more likely to get bladder cancer than non-smokers. So I can't stress enough, y'all, cigarettes, forget it. They're on the risk factor list for just about everything, including bladder cancer. So what are the symptoms of bladder cancer? Well, blood in the urine. Okay, so it can be outright red blood or kind of orange or pink tinged urine. Also, you might get some pain in the bladder area, some back pain. You might get urinary frequency, meaning you're urinating more than normal, or you might get no symptoms. Deion Sanders said he had no symptoms, okay? But they just found out because they were screening him for something totally different, and then they happened to find that he had this bladder cancer. So as far as a treatment, there's different types of treatments depending on the stage of the cancer, whether or not it's spread. There can be chemotherapy, there can be radiation. In his case, they made a choice to remove the bladder. And fortunately, according to his doctor, his bladder cancer had not spread. It had not metastasized, which makes his chances of survival with a good quality of life go up, up, up. And I will say, just to keep it honest, for people who have metastatic bladder cancer, when the cancer has already spread, there's only about a 50% chance of survival past the first 5 years. In his case, his cancer had not spread, thank goodness. It looks like they detected it relatively early. All right, so let's talk about this new bladder. What is he talking about with the new bladder? And I love it because in his press conference, Deion Sanders, he was open, okay? He's talked about some of the complications. He said that he right now is depends, okay, having some urinary incontinence. The good news is that even though having, losing control of your bladder or having urine incontinence is somewhat of a common complication initially, 6 to 12 months after you've had the new bladder, usually that daytime incontinence will resolve. And so hopefully Deion Sanders won't be depending on Depends for too much. But here's what happens. With the neobladder, the new bladder, they remove your bladder, okay, in its entirety. And then they take a part of your intestines and they create a new bladder, okay? So they take your own intestine and they shape it in a round form, somewhat like the form of your own real bladder, your native bladder. They attach it to the tubes that come from your kidneys, the ureters, and then they attach it to the tube that goes from your bladder to the outside world, your urethra. Okay, they attach this new bladder to the tube that takes urine to the outside body. And so over time, the bladder will increase in size. The muscles that support it will increase in strength. But initially, there's a lot of complications. You will initially have a Foley catheter, a catheter going there. And again, you might not have control of your bladder. You might urinate on yourself, especially during the first 6 to 12 months during the day. At nighttime, you might have nocturia or nocturnal incontinence where you urinate on yourself at night. And that sometimes takes longer, like up to 2 years to get better. But it definitely can get better. And that's what we're hoping for. And most importantly, according to Deion Sanders' doctor, he is now cancer free. All right. So praying for Deion Sanders primetime, praying for his family. And I appreciate his great words. If you get a chance, please check out his press conference talking about the bladder cancer. I found him to be real uplifting. He had a great message for people to get your health checked. And he specifically said that he knows that his Black brothers don't particularly like going to the doctor. He's right. But he encourages everyone to get your health checked so that you can live your highest, most quality formed life. All right. So go ahead, please give me a like as we get to this next story, because I'm giving you more evidence-based medicine and celebrity health news and the hot health headlines. Now, this next headline is on my nerves, but it's very important to talk about because a video has gone viral of a woman who touched herself and then touched a subway rail. Now, y'all know that's nasty. I'm sorry to be judgmental, but you know it's nasty. Why? Because of germs, okay? And I'm in the germ killing business. So, for those of you who are new to me, I am Dr. Frita. I'm an MD. I'm a medical doctor, and I have been quadruple board certified. I am a board certified nephrologist, meaning I'm a kidney doctor and a high blood pressure doctor. I have also been board certified in internal medicine, pediatrics, and obesity medicine. So I like to talk about a lot. I appreciate everyone for watching, and I appreciate you here on YouTube because we are up to over 880,000 subscribers. So please hit that subscribe button if you have not already and help us to get to 900,000 and then bump it. Let's go ahead and take it to 1 million. Thank you very much. Gracias. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this subway person who touched the rail. I'm not going to talk about her too much, but let's just talk about germs in general. And tell me this, does this kind of freak you out a little bit? Tell me what public surface freaks you out the most as far as being unclean or germ filled. Okay. Now subway rails are on my list, but let's talk about germs. Germs, depending on what the germ is, a bacteria, a virus, you name it, it might live for different lengths on different surfaces. Okay. You have things like the flu virus. Okay. Influenza A, influenza B. These things can live for up to 48 hours on surfaces, especially stainless steel surfaces or on doorknobs or on elevator buttons or on rails of stairways or on subway rails, right? And then you have viruses like the norovirus. You know, that virus that gives you all kinds of vomiting and the carimari, vomiting diarrhea, the cruise ship virus. It can last on surfaces for up to 4 weeks, okay? So when you touch surfaces, you need to beware that they can have viruses that last, even bacteria. If you think about salmonella, okay, something that causes food poisoning pretty frequently, it can last on surfaces up to 4 hours, okay? My point is you can get germs from surfaces, from tables, from telephones. Do y'all watch TV? I know you do. Remote controls. Remote controls hold a lot of bacteria, viruses, and germs that can last for hours. So what can you do? Of course, wash your hands. Wash your hands with, you can use sanitizer, like these alcohol-based sanitizers, hand sand. Those are great most of the time, but there are certain viruses that are resistant to hand sanitizer, namely norovirus, okay? Norovirus, there was recently, and we talked about it here on an episode of Celebrity Health News. Norovirus is one of these viruses that even if you use hand sanitizer, it might not make it go away. So you need soap and water. So make sure you do frequent hand washing. Here's another thing. When you're out in public, you can't always wash your hands very quickly, right? If you're on the subway, in an elevator, moving around. But just make sure that if you've touched surfaces, that you're careful not to touch your eyes, not to touch your mouth, not to eat food without washing your hands, because doing so, of course, can make you sick. Okay. So just really be careful of germs. And, you know, for me, I carry hand sanitizer in my purse, keep it in the car, but it doesn't take much for me to run to the restroom and to wash my hands with soap and water. And so y'all be careful, because what other kind of germs? Oh, C19. Okay. You know, from the panini, that's another virus that can last on surfaces for a long time. All right. So that's that on that. Y'all just be clean and don't be nasty. All right. Now on to the last story for the day. Mama June, y'all know Honey Boo Boo's mama. Well, Mama June has a reality show, and one thing that on her show was recently revealed was that she was talking to a psychic who warned her that she might have some health issues. And then hours later, she ended up seeking medical help and was found to have an ovarian cyst. Yes, a cyst on her ovaries.
You know, you saw a psychic this season, and the psychic said that, you know, she saw that maybe you would have a heart attack. What was kind of your reaction to that?
It was kind of like crazy. I have been dealing with issues, like, and everybody knows, like 2 months ago I had a surprise hysterectomy that wasn't supposed to be that way. Sure. I'm still dealing with health issues now. We're not releasing to the public until we get all answers. Okay. And she's been like looking at she's in nursing school, but she's been dumbing it down for us.
So let's talk about ovarian cysts. First of all, let's talk about the female fertility structure, the female anatomy. So you have, of course, the vagina. It goes on up to the cervix and then to the uterus or your womb. You have your fallopian tubes, and then you have your ovaries on both sides, okay? Off of either side of the fallopian tube. And each ovary is only about the size of an almond. Okay, isn't that pretty small? All right, so there's different kinds of cysts, and some cysts are actually pretty normal from month to month for women of reproductive age. So you can have functional cysts, okay, like follicular cysts, corpus luteum cysts, cysts that will come and go, get larger, smaller every month. And with most ovarian cysts, you get no signs, you get no symptoms, there are no problems. But then you can have some other cysts, which can cause pain, can cause a sharp pain, can cause a really excruciating pain, or even just a dull stabbing pain. And some of these cysts can be like the dermoid cysts or the teratomas. These are the cysts that can have literally teeth and hair in them. Okay, Google that, dermoid cyst. You can have other cysts, like if you have endometriosis, you can get endometriomas or some of that endometrious material that attaches to the ovaries, and they will form cysts. So for these cysts, They can be large. And if you get a large cyst, it can actually cause the ovary to twist, or ovarian torsion. And this, my friends, can be extremely painful, can even cut off blood flow and cause you to have your ovary removed. So what do you look out for? Pelvic pain, extreme pain, excruciating pain, things of that nature. And the really important thing is for women not to ignore their pain. A lot of women are busy, wearing the cape, being super mamas, super wives, super girlfriends, super. I'm not worried about that. Make sure you don't ignore your body, okay? Prioritize your health. If you're having some type of a pelvic pain or even abnormal bleeding, certain symptoms, because you can get ovarian torsion, you can also get ovarian rupture, which can lead to bleeding. Make sure you consult with your doctor, prioritize yourself, women. And of course, I'm hoping that Mama June does well. And I'm glad that she shared this message because, again, ovarian cysts are pretty common. You can also have something called polycystic ovary syndrome. We'll talk about that on another day. So that is that. I want y'all to make sure you keep it going in the comments. I do want to ask you, so in reference to Deion Sanders, what do you think are some of the major changes people go through when they have a life-changing experience like that, when they have a cancer like Deion Sanders? Name some of the trials and tribulations you think that someone going through that might actually experience. And also, remember, I want you to tell me what surface kind of grosses you out the most. For me, honestly, it's the bathroom handle leaving a public restroom. Okay, because I watch these ladies and a lot of them do not wash their nasty hands, regardless of what they're doing in the restroom stall. And then they go and they touch that handle. Not I. I tell you, I will do anything. I will get tissue. I'll use my foot, my elbow, or whatever. That's my surface that freaks me out enough the most. Tell me what freaks you out the most as far as catching germs. And then as far as Mama June and the pain, I want you to answer this question. If you are you a person who is very in tune with your body? Or if you get pain, will you make a lot of excuses and kind of dull down or ignore your own pain? Okay. All right. Again, I thank you for watching. I thank you for your support. Make sure you check out my website, drfrita.com. That's my one-stop shop where you can get my book, Under Pressure, A Guide to Controlling High Blood Pressure. Remember, I am a board-certified high blood pressure doctor. I talk about holistic measures for taking care of blood pressure as well as medicines, but I also talk about using food as medicine, exercise as medicine, slow, deep breathing as medicine. Okay, so check that out. And also on my website, drfrita.com, you can find my favorite things where I give you my favorite blood pressure cuffs, my favorite juicer, and I have a discount code for my favorite juicer. Check that out. All right, that's it. I appreciate y'all. I thank you for watching. Be sure to go ahead and